Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Cadre Animal Health Real Estate Channel, coming to you from the great city of Austin, Texas. I'm your host, Ron Evans, and today I'm joined by my good friend and real estate expert, Joe Golden.
Hi, Ron. Thanks for
Joe,
having me.
I think I'm going to have a name change someday. I want a name like Golden. It sounds like someone you can trust, and you're the money.
There you go.
So if you like our show and the content that we provide, give us a thumbs up, like our channel, and subscribe. If you want to reach out to us, please do so with the information provided below. We'll link the email address in the comment section. This show and all the content that we bring you is provided by our family of commercial real estate companies: Cadre Animal Health Real Estate, Cadre Construction, Kudu Realty Partners, our brokerage company, Bluefin Design, our architecture firm, and Huffman Development, which is our development brand. So today, Joe, we're going to kind of dive into just a conversation about budgeting.
Yeah.
So I know that you've been in the animal health world for many years, and the human health world for even longer than that. And you understand, I think, the dynamics of a practice, the revenues of those practices, the pressures on those practices to produce those revenues, and yet the desire to own real estate. So one of the first questions we get, it's kind of like walking into a car lot. How much does it cost?
Yeah.
A little bit of a complicated question. So walk us through the first steps. And by the way, we're going to link this conversation back to some follow-up videos with a banker, and probably several conversations with a banker. You know Bree Sylvia of Live Oak Bank. We work with a lot of bankers, but she specializes in animal health real estate loans. So I think this is kind of a segue into that. One of the pieces they need to apply for this loan is the budget. So what's the difference in kind of the draft budget and the final budget?
Well, the draft budget is preliminary, and it's getting everything together to submit to the bank, but it could be costly. I mean, it could be upwards of $80,000 to $100,000, just the draft budget.
And what do you mean by that? What's the cost of that? Where'd that come from?
Well, it's the architecture, it's
Sure.
the land, it's the civil engineering, all those estimates for costs for those items, and preliminary construction costs as well.
Okay, so preliminary construction cost as opposed to final construction cost, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So you say the land. Very often our clients are rolling the land cost into their loan. So their development loan, they're getting a loan for everything. It's covering their land, their soft cost.
Yeah.
It's covering their construction cost, things like interim taxes. Sometimes you're even borrowing the money for your interest, right?
Yeah. And sometimes banks will allow individuals, either 6 months or 12 months, they can buy the land and then roll that into a construction loan 6
Correct.
months or 12 months down the road.
Right.
You know?
So in order to get prepared for this loan, they need a budget. But there's something critical that's missing in that budget. We face this a lot. We get this question. In fact, we get this not as a question, but often a comment. So you've got a buddy who's a general contractor, and they tell you what a building might cost, and you kind of get that in your head, right? Well, that's a guess. That's maybe an educated guess, but it's certainly not the kind of ultimate budget that our clients need before they begin construction.
Yeah.
So they're basing a loan on an estimate, right?
Correct.
The better that estimate is, the better they can budget for this project, the better their bank can approve that loan,
Exactly.
structure that loan, and yet they need to know it's preliminary,
Yes.
right? So how do we get to a final budget? What's that step? What does a final budget mean?
Oh, well,
And let's say construction. Let's say the construction piece.
it's God.
Well, the bids.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're not going to build something, which we do. We're the developer and the builder on our projects.
Yeah.
We're not going to build something until we formally bid it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you don't bid something until you have a set of plans.
Exactly.
And you mentioned the $100,000, and part of that being architecture, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to go you're not going to get a final developed budget until you have a full set of plans, which are costly. I think people have a little bit of misconception that an architect, draws a footprint and some elevations of a building.
Yeah, it's needed, and it's a lot more than that.
It's a lot more than that.
Yeah, than just the art. There's a lot of science that gets into the architecture.
Yeah, and there may be 15, 20 pages of the architectural pages, and then there's the MEP pages, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and there's dozens of those. And it's only when you send those out to a contractor, subcontractors to bid those, that we finally arrive at a final budget. And even then, we still value engineered those plans.
Yeah.
It might be over budget, and we have to go back and say, well, we really don't want to put, Italian marble at the reception anymore because it was 30 grand. So that's the process.
Yeah.
It's understanding that you pick a good bank, right? How many banks do we normally refer our clients to initially?
Initially, just one, and that's to get the approval. The loan approval.
Right.
And then once we get down the road a little bit, ready to break ground, we'll send them to another one or two, just to have them compare.
Right.
To
and
what
compete.
they've got to do. Yeah, exactly. To compete.
Yeah.
To the initial one that they got the loan from.
So I think that the takeaway from this is you have to understand that we're budgeting as an assistant to our clients in order to get a loan. That's kind of phase one. And we're doing that with, decades of experience doing this. And the benefit of having a lot of these expertises, is that a,
Yeah.
Can I pluralize expertise?
Yeah. I'll accept that.
Expertise. Thanks.
Yeah.
So we have in-house architecture, we have in-house construction, and we have development, and we also have the real estate. So we've got the data, we've got the market data. We understand what's happened to lumber prices, for example, which we won't even talk about in the last 6 months. And so we can help conceptualize and formulate a preliminary budget. We put contingencies in there, and then that goes to their banker. Their banker is a gatekeeper. Their banker, especially a banker who is an expert in their particular type of construction, like Live Oak with animal hospitals.
Yeah.
Well, they see thousands a year. So they understand and can compare their budgets to a lot of the other budgets they see. They'll then structure the loan based on that. But it's only once you get a full set of plans drawn, civil engineering for the site work. Most people don't understand when we say site work, what that really means. So walk through some of the pieces of site work.
Oh gosh, the location, if it's level, the topography.
Yeah.
Several factors go into that. The impervious coverage.
Yep.
That's what civil engineering is going to find out. If it needs a detention pond.
Right.
Or if a certain size tree could be cut down.
Yeah. Or if it's in the way of the building.
Exactly. Yeah. So site selection is extremely important.
Yeah. So infrastructure also includes utilities.
If they're there already.
If they're there, if they're not there. We've had sites where we had to go, 100 yards down the road to get water and wastewater.
Yeah.
You can imagine the cost. And that's part of that due diligence that we do. So the budget includes all the soft cost, like architecture, paying the civil engineer. The civil engineer, I always say the civil engineer is like the horizontal architect and the architect is the vertical architect, right? Yeah. That civil engineer does the sciencey part of the site work. They're figuring out those flow calculations for water runoff and detention. They're paying attention to things like setbacks from the neighboring property.
Yeah.
They understand where your water, wastewater is coming from, where you're getting your electrical power from, how many parking spaces you might need. So we price that up from their work product, the site plans. And then we price up the construction, the shell building, and the interior finish out from the architect's plans.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of science too, but it's also the beauty of it,
yeah.
right? That's where the passion happens. You start to see you start to see your dream come true. And only after those plans are drawn, and frequently for let's say a 5,000 square foot vet clinic, you alluded to a cost of $100,000. You could easily spend that on civil engineering and architecture.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
We see that a lot.
Yeah.
For that size facility.
And that's become a common size, you think?
Yeah. 5 to 6 is very common for small animal. You'll get larger in a mixed practice,
Yeah.
and a large specialty or ER. You're looking at 10,000, 12,000. I know some orthopedic or very specialized centers, ER upwards of 18 to 20, even 30,000 square feet.
Well, point in case, we're building a orthopedic emergency center for a group of veterinarians right now that's over 17,000 square feet, 2 stories.
Yeah.
And on the top floor, they've got living quarters for the docs so they can, if they need to spend the night or sleep. So we price all of that up, and then we go back with that final budget. Hopefully that expertise and that time that we've spent and that knowledge of the market has us within 5-10% of that preliminary budget that we use. But understand, how long is that process? How long is architecture and civil engineering? Let's say, Joe, if I was asking you, I'm starting today, I want that architect and that engineer to start right now. They might have plans to go out to bid in how long?
Yeah. Exactly.
How long would that be?
It could potentially be 6 months, 8 months,
Right.
something like that.
That's just to get your plans.
Exactly. And to present to the banker, and to get that first meeting set up with the city planners.
Right. So let's talk then about, let's divide this into 2 parts. I want to talk a little bit more about the specific budget and some numbers, but let's close this with that concept, right? So there are 2 orders in which land is very often acquired. I think we mentioned this when we first started talking. There's, you go ahead and buy the land, the veterinarian goes ahead. I'm not making you buy land, Joe. The veterinarian goes ahead and buys the land, and they are then working through those plans with the loan that included not just the land, but like I said, all the soft costs, all the construction costs, and they're drawing down monthly from that loan. Once the plans are done, they're bid, they release us and we release the subcontractors. We start construction, and that process can take how long?
Oh, the construction part?
Yeah, from breaking ground.
Yeah, breaking ground. Luckily, 12 months. But we'd like to put a little cushion in there just to be safe, because there's always surprises. So,
That's right.
14, 15, 16 months.
And that included not just the building and the interior finish out, but that included the site work, which in and of itself could take 4 or 5 months. Now, there are some of these portions that can overlap. So you can be building the shell while there's still things to do on the site, like landscaping and irrigation installation, constructing the dumpster enclosure, those kinds of things. You can overlap some of the interiors with the shell. Yeah. Once it's dried in, and when we say dried in, that basically means that it's protected from the elements. Yeah. The enclosure, the windows, the doors, and the roof. We can start building the interiors. They may still be putting stone and stucco on the exterior. That process, like you said, for site work and all, really might take a year to a year and a half.
Yeah.
And they've already got 6 months in it in planning. So that, I think that's a little bit of a surprise to most people. If they've done any research, they probably know that that's a realistic timeline in today's world.
Yeah. And depending on time of year also has something to do with it as well. Permitting with the city,
right.
It's going to take longer.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about all the snowstorms we have in Austin.
No. It seems the last several years that everybody's been backed up on the permitting.
Yeah. And COVID made that a lot worse. But let's talk about that in another episode.
Yeah.
God, we could go on forever about the changes in construction timing, zoning, permitting, entitling land, construction, getting materials, just post-COVID.
Yeah.
That's probably 3 episodes, right?
Yeah.
All right, great. Joe, thanks.
Thank you.
Good talking.
Thanks, Ron.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you watching the show. Like I said, if you really enjoy this, you think it's educational, give us a thumbs up. Look at the link below, and we'll provide some contact information. If you want to talk to us about one of your specific projects, please do so. Reach out to us by email, and we'd love to help you with your next project. Thanks so much. Have a great day.